What if I told you that this weekend's box office wasn't about superheroes or long-awaited sequels, but about an anime juggernaut, a Jordan Peele produced psychological horror, and a Margot Robbie fantasy film that just couldn't find its wings? Imagine three completely different kinds of movies battling it out in theaters across America. The question is simple. Which story did audiences actually choose to spend their money on? Tonight, we're diving deep into the box office drama where Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, the movie Infinity Castle edged out him for the #1 spot, while Margot Robbie's A Big Bold Beautiful Journey quietly collapsed at the starting line. Let's begin with the crown jewel of the weekend. Demon Slayer, Infinity Castle is no ordinary film. This anime phenomenon smashed into American cinemas with an absolutely jaw-dropping $70 million opening weekend, an opening figure that Hollywood blockbusters dream of but rarely achieve anymore. This wasn't just a good performance. It was historic. Crunchyroll, the Sony-owned distributor, unleashed this movie as if it were the finale of a cultural event, and fans showed up in droves, cosplaying, lining up for sold-out screenings, and turning theaters into gatherings of passionate communities. The Infinity Castle arc, adapted from Koyo Harugatou's best-selling manga, was always destined to be big, but nobody expected numbers that rival the very best of Marvel or Disney. Now, fast forward to this weekend. Anime films, especially those with massive openings, usually experience sharp drops in their second weekend, and Infinity Castle was no exception. The movie tumbled by 77%. But even with that staggering fall, it's still expected to finish in first place, eking out around $16 million. That tiny lead is enough to hold off him. A brand new Universal release backed by Jordan Peele's production company Monkey Paw. For context, Infinity Castle has already raked in $419.2 million worldwide. It's no longer just a Japanese or American phenomenon, it's global. The stakes are monumental, and this weekend simply adds another chapter to its box office legend. But the race for #1 wasn't straightforward. Enter him. Directed by Justin Tipping, this film is a dark psychological horror with a sports backdrop, a concept that sounded unique on paper. Tyreek Withers plays a top NFL quarterback prospect who's brutally attacked and suffers devastating brain trauma. His dreams of NFL greatness are shattered until he encounters Marlon Wayans as the legendary GOAT quarterback who offers him a comeback path, though at a terrifying cost. It's equal parts sports drama, psychological thriller, and horror. Produced under Jordan Peele's Monkey Paw banner, it came with a built-in curiosity factor. Peele's name is now synonymous with high-concept horror thanks to Get Out, Us, and Nope. On Friday, him opened with $6.4 million. That should have given it momentum heading into the weekend. By projections, it was on track to earn about $15 million total. But here's the catch. Audiences weren't buying what the film was selling. Reviews from critics leaned mediocre, and the all-important CinemaScore rating, the grade assigned by audiences exiting theaters, landed at a C-. That's a brutal sign. CinemaScore is often an early warning of word-of-mouth trouble, and a C means most audiences felt let down. Peele's involvement got people into seats, but once the lights dimmed, the movie itself couldn't hold them. Him aimed to be the GOAT, but it was stuck in second place, overshadowed by an anime that had already spent a week dominating headlines. Meanwhile, Sony had its own embarrassment to deal with. Just 2 years ago, Margot Robbie was the face of a box office miracle called Barbie. That candy-colored comedy revitalized Hollywood, proved audiences would show up for original, female-led blockbusters, and turned Robbie into the rare actress who could shape the industry. Fast forward to now, and her newest starring role, A Big Bold Beautiful Journey, opened this weekend with a disastrous $3.8 million, good for only 6th place. Directed by Kaganata, known for his contemplative style, and written by Seth Rice from a blacklist script, the film told the story of a man and woman who relive key moments of their lives together. It was meant to be emotional, magical, and moving. Instead, audiences gave it a lukewarm B, CinemaScore, and critics mostly shrugged. Despite co-starring Colin Farrell and boasting a high-profile marketing push, the movie simply didn't connect. For Sony, this is more than a disappointment. It's a wake-up call. When you have Margot Robbie, fresh off Barbie, expectations are sky-high. Instead, the film barely made a ripple, and Robbie's attempt at following her box office glory with a slower, more romantic fantasy failed to land. But let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. This weekend was filled with a wide variety of films, all aiming to capture different audiences. Horror fans had The Conjuring, The Last Rites, now in its third weekend and still managing a healthy $12.1 million haul. That franchise has been Warner Brothers' workhorse for years, and audiences clearly continue to show up for every new installment. Then there was Lionsgate's The Long Walk, which grossed around $6.4 million, and Focus Features' Downton Abbey, the finale, pulling in $6.1 million as a nostalgic farewell to beloved characters. Each of these films carved out its slice of the box office pie, but none of them could rise to the challenge of beating either Demon Slayer or him. Now, let's talk about why Demon Slayer continues to defy expectations. Anime has historically been treated by Hollywood as niche, a genre that might do decently in limited releases but rarely cracks the mainstream. That narrative has been shattered in recent years. Demon Slayer, Mugen Train already proved anime could dominate globally, becoming one of the highest-grossing films of 2020 during the pandemic. With Infinity Castle, Crunchyroll, and Sony doubled down, giving it a wide release on par with Hollywood tentpoles. And it worked. What makes this even more interesting is the cultural crossover. Audiences who may never have watched anime before are discovering the franchise, curious about the hype, and walking into theaters for the first time. It's not just fans. It's new converts, families, and curious moviegoers. On the other hand, Him reveals the limits of star power and brand recognition. Jordan Peele's name is powerful, but if the product doesn't deliver, audiences will turn away quickly. The film's blend of sports and horror may have confused some viewers. Is it a comeback story? Is it a nightmare? Tried to be both, and in the process may have lost clarity. CinemaScore tells us people didn't leave theaters eager to recommend it to friends. And in today's social media-driven landscape, word of mouth spreads instantly. As for A Big Bold Beautiful Journey, its failure highlights a tough truth. Audiences are picky about what they'll show up for in theaters. In an era where streaming offers endless romantic dramas and indie-style films at home, a theatrical release has to feel essential. Robbie's film simply didn't. Without buzz, without strong reviews, and without a hook that made it feel like a must-see on the big screen, it vanished almost immediately. So where does that leave us? By the end of the weekend, Demon Slayer, Infinity Castle will claim the #1 spot, even after a brutal drop in earnings. Him will come in second, unable to capitalize on its unique premise. The Conjuring, The Last Rites will prove the durability of horror franchises, holding on to third. The Long Walk and Downton Abbey, the finale will fill out the top 5. And A Big Bold Beautiful Journey will be remembered not for its beauty, but for its box office stumble. This box office showdown tells a bigger story about Hollywood's current landscape. Audiences are no longer predictable. They're willing to show up in massive numbers for anime, but they're also quick to punish films that don't meet expectations. Even big names like Jordan Peele and Margot Robbie can't guarantee success. What matters is the product itself, the story, the execution, the emotion. People want to be moved, thrilled, or transported. If a film can't do that, it doesn't matter who's behind it. As the credits roll on this weekend's drama, one lesson is crystal clear. The future of cinema is wide open. Traditional Hollywood genres are battling it out with global anime sensations, horror universes, and nostalgic fare. And for now, the champion isn't who many would have predicted. It's an anime that refuses to be ignored.